So what does Oscar Wilde, Napoleon Bonaparte, Mahatma Gandhi, Benjamin Franklin, and Andy Warhol all have in common? Oscar Wilde was known for his flamboyant and dandy style. His clothing choices were bold and unconventional and challenged the Victorian norms of the 1870s and 80s. Napoleon Bonaparte often wore his military uniform in civilian settings. He preferred very simple styles and really tried to move away from the elaborate fashions of the French aristocracy. Mahatma Gandhi, as many of you guys know, was a traditionally trained lawyer. In fact, in his early career, he dressed like a typical Englishman. But once Gandhi decided that he was going to help India break away from British colonial rule, he started to wear only handspun, the traditional Indian dhoti and shawl, rejecting Western attire as a sign of self-reliance. As for Benjamin Franklin, he chose to wear simple and practical clothing, contrasting with the ornate styles of European aristocrats. And Andy Warhol set himself apart with his silver wigs and unconventional fashion choices that became part of his artistic persona. Now, gents, so many times on this channel, I talk about style rules and the importance of following them. But the reality is style rules are not anything like the laws of physics. They're more like guidelines, and for a lot of guys, especially as they're just getting started, they help to keep them on the right path. But what if you want to go beyond? What if you want to intentionally break style rules, and can you use that to your advantage? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you why style rules exist and how to break them and use that to your advantage. So you ready, gents? Let's do it. So starting things off, let's talk about why style rules even exist. So a lot of these style rules have historical context in that they have been passed down from generation to generation. They have worked. They allow people to be able to understand where they fit in society. And there's also the cultural identity. As human beings, we like to group together in tribes. The tribe, we take care of each other, we protect each other. For hundreds of thousands of years, this is how human beings survived. It was basically a cheat code to quickly identify, hey, yeah, that person is someone that I can trust, someone that probably has my back, even if we don't know each other too well. Now, the second reason a lot of these dress codes exist, and this happened in the last 10,000 years, is about social hierarchy. So going back like 6,000 years, we see that human beings started to create classes. They started to create different levels. We go back to ancient Egypt. You had the religious figures and priests at the top. You had then soldiers. Below them, you had merchants. And right at the very bottom, you had the workers. Well, what we would find in a society like this is that there were actually laws. There were actually rules on what certain people could wear. And a big part of this is if you dressed a certain way, you were afforded certain privileges. So the idea of the laws here is for people not to abuse actually maybe dressing in a certain way and getting privileges which they did not deserve, at least according to that culture. We continue to see this in ancient Rome. We then saw this over throughout the medieval ages throughout Europe. China and India had their own systems of what people could wear and what certain colors and items signified. Now, more recent development are aesthetic standards, and we look at this with the classic suit. What I love about the suit for a guy is it's basically like lingerie. It makes you look better. It slims up the build on a man maybe that's carrying a little bit of extra weight. It builds up the shoulders, makes you look taller. Aesthetically speaking, a suit can take a man with an average body and make him look amazing. So creating a set of style rules here on how to actually wear this garment correctly makes sense because it's going to ensure that you get the most value out of the garment. An example would be the rule about buttoning the top button only on the suit. The reason you want to do this when you're standing is it's going to bring the outfit together and it's going to ensure that the suit drapes properly. Because of the way most suits have been designed, if you actually button that bottom button, it can slightly throw off the silhouette and it doesn't allow movement as freely as it would be without doing that. And let's talk about dress codes that exist because of psychological and behavioral signals. So because we've become accustomed to a man in a suit being in charge, guess what? A lot of companies that sell understand that, hey, if you put your customer-facing people in a suit, they're just going to get a few extra seconds to be able to speak to somebody, and they're going to come off as being more competent and in a position of authority. Also, certain colors can actually make people more believable. There's a classic study of a man in a red sweater and a blue sweater. It was the same video, they just changed the color of his sweater. Well, guess what? When he was wearing that red sweater, everyone seemed to believe him a bit more. And then there's professional and ethical standards. So with ethical, we see this out of a lot of religions. They've got certain dress codes, maybe for women or for men, what they need to wear because they want them to be modest. Like the law in banking, they want there to be a sense of credibility. So that's why you're going to see much more conservative dress there. So having said all that, as you can see that there are good reasons for dress codes, but there are also frivolous frivolous, stupid reasons that are probably outdated. And so addressing that latter, that's where I think there's a lot of play, because you don't want to violate a dress code that actually is protecting you, but a dress code that maybe is outdated, one that you want to challenge or you want to turn on its head, or you want to send a different type of signal. Well, those are the dress codes that you can have fun with and you could leverage to your advantage to be able to stand out from the crowd. I know a lot of you guys went to schools in which they had a uniform. Did you have much personal expression there? Not a whole lot, but for those of you guys that grew up in schools with dress codes, you know that there are things that you can do. It's sometimes the way that you wear it. It's the fit. It's, turning those socks. You guys know the small details, making that thing look a little bit better. Even though you're all wearing the same thing, people wore it in different ways. And that's what I think is really interesting about personal expression. As human beings, we want this. And especially in a group that we trust, or when everyone's looking the same, when we realize, especially if you've got the confidence, I want to set myself apart. And that's why I always think as a young man, you should be out there experimenting. You should be trying something new. I went to a school in which everyone was a kicker. Basically, Midland, Texas, Greenwood, Texas to be specific. I mean, there was the ride your horse to school, drive your tractor to school day. That wasn't me. I wasn't a farmer. I wasn't a kicker, even though we did have horses. I viewed myself as kind of like the skater. I like Thrasher magazine. So I wore oversized clothing that I'd gotten over in California that nobody else was wearing. And I really felt that that was my identity. That was my look. But I know some of you guys go the complete opposite. You actually dress up in a world of casual style. And I think there's a big advantage to that because you're in college and you're out there interviewing. You know what you want to achieve. You want to go to law school. You want to become a doctor. You want to start that company. So why not dress now to practice on how you want to present yourself and send signals, because you never know who you could be talking with and who's out there looking for an intern. And personal expression doesn't have to be in your face. It doesn't have to be over the top. It could be a small detail. I remember a lawyer that I worked with years ago on transforming his image. His clothing was actually very much lawyer-esque, but it was the small details. Like he had these skull cufflinks, and he liked to be able to put his hands on the table and to be able to show off those skulls. And it was that small detail that, that's where he actually expressed his individuality. Gents, if you want to step up your style efficiently and effectively, look for a proven path. A curriculum that saves you from confusion, from bad information, from crappy teachers. You want to make sure that you're not just learning facts, but you actually are being shown concepts. Lessons that give you foundations. They give you the fundamentals to be able to dress sharp in any situation. It's also great if you can surround yourself with like-minded men, because how many times have you tried to learn something and there are other people that don't want to be there, they're distracting you, or worse, they're tempting you to go do something else. Which is why, gents, I wanted to show you this. My new free group for you that not only has instruction, but an amazing community that is distraction free. It's got a great app. And did I say it's free? Guys, I developed this for you. Finally, I found a platform that makes this so simple, so easy, and so effective for you to be able to step up your style. Seriously, gents, I've got courses in this community that I used to sell. You can get for free. I've set up prizes. I've gamified it. Guys, I'm going to link to it down in the description. Or if you just want to go over to the URL, it's at school.com/RMRS. This group is free, although you do have to answer 3 questions. I don't ask for your email address. I simply want to make sure that we keep spammers out of the group. It's a high quality group. It's an amazing community that I am proud to give to you guys. Now, building off that last point, let's talk about the confidence boost that you get when you stand out from the crowd. So it's one thing about thinking about standing out. It's another thing to do it. And once you get used to that, all of a sudden you start knowing that, hey, this is my identity. You have the confidence and other people notice, they give you compliments. It's like this circle, this loop that feeds itself. Gents, wearing something that you feel comfortable in, that's unconventional, that sets you apart from the crowd, it can do wonders to boost your confidence and make you, all of a sudden you start to see yourself as the individual you are. Now for this next point, I want to show you a photo. Okay, so look at all these people. Who do you notice? Yeah, the woman in the red dress. Remember that scene from Matrix? Now, why does she stand out? Okay, she's beautiful, but also the color. It just grabs our attention. So now a photo that's maybe a little bit more applicable to us, but yeah, notice that guy right there? He is standing out from the crowd. And it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything over the top. He just simply had that shaved head in a sea of men with lots of hair. But here's the thing, you just need one angle. You need one thing that you can change up, and it doesn't have to always be clothing. It could be the way that you groom yourself. But if you can stand out from the crowd, instantly you are going to be picked up by those that are spotting that difference. And because you're different, you're not being, as Nudie Cohen said, overlooked. No, you're being looked over. Is everyone going to like it? No. but certain people are going to be drawn to it, and that's the key. Gents, when you create a memorable impression, it's not about creating a good impression with everybody. That's pretty much impossible, and you can't control what other people think. But what you can do is control the message that you think you're sending with the clothing. You can control the way that you present yourself and the way that you behave. And depending, again, on the message you want to send, certain people are going to be receptive, they're going to receive it, and they're going to remember you. Now, for this next point, we're going to talk about creativity. And I do think that breaking style rules, dressing in a unique way, can improve and enhance your natural creativity because it's got you thinking outside the box. You start to notice that people pay attention to these details. That gets you to experiment in other ways. But I also think experimenting with your looks, breaking rules, it actually has other people perceive you as being more creative. And again, not always a great thing because when you don't dress like the tribe, some people view you as an outsider and they're more likely to distrust you. But if you're in a company that you know most people and you're dressing in a way that just highlights the fact that you are a creative, that you're an outside the box thinker, and in a strange way makes you even seem more valuable and probably endears you to those around you. Now, looking at this gentleman here, would you describe him as timid? Would you describe him as conventional? Would you describe him as run-of-the-mill? The answer is no. Maybe you would describe him as bold, and for some people, they don't want that boldness. They don't want the rule breaker. They don't want them on their team. But if you're part of a startup, if you are part of a company that still has the original founder, a lot of these entrepreneurs, a lot of these people that are going in and making things happen, they view themselves literally as pirates. They view themselves as these buccaneers, these guys going out there and making things happen, bending the rules of industry to be able to create the next billion-dollar unicorn. And you can bet they're always looking for teammates. They're looking for people that are bold. And when you dress in a way that you set yourself apart from the crowd, that you are clearly following the beat of a different drum, well, that's a signal that a lot of other bold people like to see, and they like to surround themselves with people who are like them. Last but not least, let's talk about confidence. Have you ever looked at a musician when they go up on stage, especially a rock musician? These people own the stage and they own that look. No matter what you think of David Bowie, Michael Jackson, The Weeknd, or even Post Malone, one thing you can't take from any of these guys is when they're up on stage, they own it. And they come off as confident. Now, if you were to go grocery shopping and run into a guy that is dressed like how these guys do on stage, you may be thinking weirdo, but if they walk through, if they're just acting normally and they move around, you may think, wow, this is the most confident person I've ever met that clearly, is from another planet. But here's the thing, that type of confidence is extremely attractive, both to men and women that aren't afraid to be themselves and to move forward despite what the rest of the world may be thinking about them. So agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below. And what video to watch next? Gents, I got you covered. Boom. Right here. Even if you aren't into Western wear, you'll be able to take, because yes, it comes down to confidence, but I break out each of the items in their wardrobe and have confidence, be able to walk into a place and just own it. Yeah, check it out. Solid video. Boom. Right here.